one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I have it right here on my list. So I actually wanted to talk about three things today. Number one is that I think Donald Trump's uh, call upon allies to help with the Strait of Hormuz is a cheek, basically. I'm very critical of this call of his that he's put forward. So that's number one. Number two, I wanted to talk about slavery and what it really is. It's sort of a diverse range of practices and how that relates to today, given the workplace, wage slavery, when you think about it. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is how, historically speaking, because I am a leftist, uh, many people are often surprised to find that as a leftist, I'm also pro life. And so they think, huh? How can that be? And basically, what I want to make clear is that historically speaking, the left were always pro life. A lot of people don't know that, in addition to being against the SMEX trade, as I think is well how I'm going to put it. And so there are many positions that existed on the left historically that today we don't really associate with the international left, leftists, so on and so forth. Because, quite frankly, I'm going to be honest here, the bloody liberals have basically made a muck of things. And so that is what I wanted to sort of touch on today as well. And I have three different sort of arguments or whatever, one for each subject. And each argument is grounded in a particular thinker, Matua, if you will, that I draw upon. I have a list of different thinkers. You could go read about this on my Substack, Seven Commandments, by yours truly, Snowball. And basically, I talk about this list of different thinkers that I draw upon. Of course, the foundation for me, the skeleton, if you will, is always going to be Māoritanga, but I don't really talk about it on my Substack because that's more sort of personal, sort of to me, if that makes sense. So, let us get into Donald Trump and why I think it's sort of cheeky of him to want to have allies help with the Strait of Hormuz. So, before we go any further, what is the Strait of Hormuz? Basically, it's this choke point, if you will, passage of ocean located sort of at the bottom of Iran, sort of where Iran and the Arabian Peninsula meet. That's basically where it is. And so that is Hormuz. And Hormuz is a vital shipping lane in terms of the world when it comes to international trade. So it's an incredibly important thing, Hormuz. So here is my argument grounded in Martin Gilles Deleuze. And so Gilles Deleuze, basically what he talked about was two different kinds of spaces when it comes to the international scene. We have smooth spaces, which are sort of open fluid movement, like blood freely flowing through arteries, for example. And so this is sort of spaces that are not contested. That is what Deleuze talks about, Martin Deleuze. Equally, Martin Deleuze talks about what he refers to as striated spaces. And so, what is that? Striated spaces. So, striated spaces are controlled, measured, regulated territory. That's sort of what he talks about. So, they're kind of like veins tightened by pressure cuffs marked and measured by medicine, if you will, the sort of space that's sort of being cordoned off, okay? And so that is what Martha Deleuze talks about. Now, the sea, the realm of Tagaloa, when you think about it, or Poseidon, I guess, if you're Greek, or I guess Yahweh, if you're Christian, I don't know. The sea is historically a smooth space, like an open circulatory system, moving without restriction, but modern geopolitics tightens that circulation, turning it into something more anatomical and regulated. So the Strait of Hormuz begins to function like a constricted artery in the body of global trade. So this is an example of what Deleuze would call a striated space. So Donald Trump asking allies to help secure Hormuz, we can read as a re-territorialization of maritime space, like fitting surgical clamps onto an artery, turning global trade flows into a managed vascular system monitored by the geopolitical equivalent of surgeons and instruments. So the strait simply becomes not simply water, but a narrow vein in the body of capitalism where the pulses constantly monitored. This is part of the sort of paranoid system that Martin Deleuze talks about. And so, from a Deleuzian sort of pair of eyes, the issue is not Trump personally, per se, strictly speaking, but how state power presses fingers against the body of circulation to regulate its pulse. And so that is what Martha Deleuze is talking about. So when we get at the subject of oil, Martha Deleuze, because he was obsessed with analyzing capitalism and so on and so forth, so he describes oil as a flow that states try to capture. That is what Martha Deleuze talks about. So oil moves through the Strait of Hormuz, behaves like metabolic fluid, if you think about it, something like blood plasma or hormones through the bloodstream of the global economy. And so capitalism deterritorializes like oxygen spreading through the bloodstream, circulating everywhere. The states then re-territorialize those flows through regulation and military presence, like organs regulating what passes through the body. So Trump's request to allies reflects this logic. Oil must flow through, like blood through arteries, sort of freely, right? And that flow creates vulnerability, a clot, an infection, a constriction. And so, therefore, military alliances attempt to stabilize the circulation, acting like platelets or immune responses preventing blockage. Thus, the request is not exceptional. It is a physiological reflex of capitalism's metabolism. That's sort of a Deleuzian sort of way of looking at it. So, Martha Deleuze talked about this thing that he called assemblage. And basically, what he argued is that states are not single sort of motivated actors, but rather states are assemblages or assemblage in the original French, meaning that they are sort of in a meeting of different motivations, different sort of groups, and so on and so forth, and that this is in the body of the state. And so that is what Martha Gilles Deleuze talks about. So he has what he calls the security assemblage. So Deleuze uses the concept of assemblage, agencement, a network of sort of heterogeneous elements functioning together. And here, the Hormuz Strait, when you think about it, resembles an entire bodily system working together to keep the circulation alive. The security assemblage includes navies, like muscle and bone exerting force, shipping companies, arteries carrying material, insurance markets, the nervous system measuring risk. When you think about it, that's what an insurance market is akin to. Oil corporations, which we could say are like metabolic organs extracting and disturbing energy. Alliances, which are kind of like ligaments connecting different limbs of the system. And surveillance technologies, which are like sort of sensory nerves constantly feeling for danger. So Trump's request effectively attempts to reconfigure this body, redistributing strain across its limbs. So a Deleuzian sort of critique to this would be the request exposes how global capitalism survives through a militarized anatomy, not autonomy. And so therefore allies are asked to act like additional organs supporting circulation, helping the system avoid collapse. No, there is a logic to this sort of burden sharing. So Trump often framed such requests in terms of burden sharing. So if we're to sort of use bodily language, this resembles a body shifting weight from one limb to another when one muscle grows tired, essentially. And so the real issue is which part of the body bears the strain of maintaining circulation. So, in sort of the language of Martin Deleuze, we have the United States historically functions like a dominant organ pumping force through the system, something like a geopolitical heart, whereas Trump's demand asks other states to become additional muscles assisting the pump. This does not dismantle the body, it redistributes the strain across its skeleton and musculature. The imperial body simply adjusts its body. That's essentially what it does. And so the war machine, Martin Deleuze talks about this thing called the war machine versus the state apparatus. And so the war machine is a mobile force emerging outside the state. It's sort of hard to wrap your head around, but basically what he argues is that the war machine is something that can sort of appropriate any state. And if you want, you have to sort of watch my last video, in which I talk about Deleuze and how the US president has too much power. And so I use Martin Deleuze to give flesh and form to that point. Now, basically, the war machine here, and you have the state apparatus, that's what he talks about. So a mobile force outside, emerging outside the state, and then the state apparatus is the skeleton that captures and organizes that force. Modern militaries resemble a muscular sort of system attached to a rigid skeleton. And so naval fleets policing the Strait of Hormuz act like muscles tightening around an artery, ready to contract when circulation is threatened. Their purpose is not necessarily combat, but maintaining the body's pulse. So, in Deleuzian sort of terms, modern warfare increasingly resembles a physiological maintenance sort of system, keeping the bloodstream of capitalism moving rather than conquering new territory. So, a Deleuzian critical solution. From a Deleuzian perspective, the key issue is not Trump's personality or diplomatic style. The deeper structure resembles the anatomy of a living system. Global capitalism produces massive energy flows like blood or hormones. That's number one. Number two, these flows pass through vulnerable choke points like the narrow arteries of the planet, such as the Strait of Hormuz. Three, states construct military organs and skeletal structures to regulate circulation. And 4, alliances distribute the metabolic burden of keeping the system alive. And so Trump's request simply exposes the anatomy beneath the skin of global order. It reveals the beating heart, the arteries, the nerves, and the bones holding the system together. In that sense, the moment reveals something Matua Deleuze repeatedly emphasized, which is that power today operates less through conquering land and more through touching, constricting, and regulating the circulation within the body of the world. And I think that's important to understand because he is not the sort of outsider that he makes himself out to be when you think about it, Donald Trump. Rather, he is precisely doing what the system requires of him. It's interesting, when he ran in 2016 for the first time, he ran on an anti-imperial sort of promise. And since he's been in office, he has been the most imperial president that has ever existed. When you think about it, short of perhaps the earlier ones like Andrew Jackson and so on and so forth. And so Trump asking allies to help secure Hormuz is an example of states attempting to grip and regulate the arterial flow of oil within the body of global capitalism, turning the sea into a monitored vein maintained by multinational security organism. And so that is my critique of Trump calling upon allies. Yet again, this is more evidence that he is not the sort of outside anti-imperialist that he makes himself out to be, but that in reality, he is as much a part of the system. It is vital to the system as well anyone else that is in his position, really, when you think about it. And so, now that I've sort of finished that talking point, I'm going to have a look at the comments and see if any of you, anyone's, well, first off, if anyone's listening, and second of all, what your comments are. So, Ramarihi, kia ora, Ramarihi. Doctor, Granddad, you need to touch grass and look at the sky. Okay, I don't know who Doctor or Doctor is, but, I appreciate having you here. Mana, good to see you, Mana. I've requested, sir. Oh, okay, I didn't see your request. IOPU 888. Hey, Tony Stark. Hello. Are you an Iron Man fan? IOPU 888. That's very interesting if you are. I personally, when it comes to Iron Man, am not a fan of the movies, I'm going to be honest with you. I never sort of got into the Robert Downey Jr. Sort of interpretation of Iron Man and Tony Stark. Although I am very much a fan of the comic books, the original comic books. So, Iron Man in terms of the Silver Age and the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. But I'm not a fan of Iron Man sort of post Robert Downey Jr. onwards because he changed the characters so much. And then on top of that, not only did he change it so much, because we must remember that in the original comics with, Jack Kirby and stuff, Iron Man was actually the sort of Howard Hughes eccentric type, when you think about it, if you remember. Whereas Robert Downey Jr. sort of made him into the sort of dashing playboy, if you will. And that's cool. Like, I don't have anything against that. But I preferred the sort of more reclusive, mad bastard type of character that he was originally. And they changed him in the comics to sort of more resemble Robert Downey Jr.'s reinvention of the character, which is fine. Which is fine. I'm not against anyone doing that or anyone liking that. It's just not for me personally. So, yes. Oh, okay. So we have the guests thing. And so let me try and work this. Kia ora.
Akwe. Tēnā koe, Snowball. I'll laugh out loud at Mad Bastard.
Who's Mad Bastard?
Your comment you made
Oh, okay.
about yeah. It was funny to hear.
Yes.
You know, I haven't heard Mad Bastard for a while, but
Yeah. I prefer the old school Iron Man from the old school comics where he was a mad bastard, as opposed to the sort of billionaire playboy that he's sort of made out to be now.
yes. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
How's your day been, bro?
Yeah, very good, thank you. It's been very good. Yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been busy for the last couple of hours, but yeah, my day's been great. Yeah, I go all over applications, from TikTok to WhatsApp, and I dance a little bit in Facebook. Moved right away from Facebook though; it's too toxic, and I don't like reading David Seymour or Hobson's Pledges. Posts. It's like it's 1,000 roll my eye moments with those characters. So I just remove myself from there and don't even want to entertain, what's currently been unfolding.
Interesting.
And I guess that's I guess sitting in the chat here, having a little bit of a listen to your referencing, especially in regards to the oil, the war machine, and the Trump, I don't even know what you want to call, his statements at, I mean, there was one a couple of days ago that he'd said, or he stated that, something to do with bombings, and I'm assuming that it was the bombings in Iran, and he goes, "Yep, no, they're getting bombed, and there are people that are walking around with no legs and no arms." There are people walking around with no arms and no legs. It's coming from out the mouth, you know what I mean? Or the pea brain of supposedly the most powerful, man on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, who is this idiot, that spouts nonsense? I mean, it's almost, I guess it's worse than the last dementia-ridden old man that, you're like, so you need to question, who, is typically and always been behind those, those parasites that go and spout, stupidity. I mean, it would be a grave insult, to to the parasite, to actually, think that anything, positive or meaningful comes out the mouth, of parasites like that. So, it was interesting how you were referencing the oil, and its, I guess, its place, in the spaces of the here and the now and the time and the way in which systems, within countries, are literally reliant on oil, gas, and diesel, and so you know what I mean. For if they did not have that continuous flow, right, countries and systems would be brought to their knees.
Yes, exactly.
None more so than America.
Yeah.
Yeah, none more so than America. And, if, and it's clear that, they've exhausted all their avenues of, attaining oil and gas. They've upset so many, countries. I mean, you just use Venezuela as an example. It has the, second highest, I think, reserve or oil reserve, on the planet. And how ironic is it that they are now also, terrorists, and you just see the whole thing. And especially throughout the Middle East, and the Middle Eastern lands of where, they've been so rich in that, in that mother blood, of black blood, black gold, the oil, the gas, that if America cannot seal, at least a generation, say 25 to 50 years, of gas and oil, they know that their country will be brought to its knees and literally live its life in darkness. No power will operate throughout. And that's a huge, I guess, it's a huge nuance, to break down and understand that, this war's got absolutely nothing to do with other than for America. It's besides that, it's, they're leading, the charge to fulfill the original, plan, and design to usher in the NWO, and for the masses that I had mentioned yesterday, are actually, complicit in the Neanderthals and will continue to, fund these idiots. You know what I mean? And we're talking about our own idiots, the three, cockwombles of this coalition-led government, is like, so every government, you know what I mean? They're at how could you, a stalemate, their position, because, they know that the world, has had enough. The people have had enough of what has been happening over in the Middle East, Israel, Iran, even the Eastern Bloc, Ukraine, and the escalation that is being predicted. It's clear that, to me anyway, let's have a robust conversation about it. Because to me, it's, you don't really need to reference, evidence or, anyone else's, opinions, whether it's the professional and, I've had enough of referencing, I'm a simple man, not a complicated plan. Common sense, for being around over 3 generations on the face of this, dystopian planet, and unpacking and peeling away, the bullshit, that we've been under, and totally controlled by.
Yeah.
Is that we're now in a state of, well, yeah, I know all this, but I don't want to because I'm comfortable. I'll clap like a seal. You know what I mean? I'm all good. I'm okay.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's exactly where this design that the a bunch of they're beyond evil, and I call them evilites, have designed to put and push back now on the fact that their plan is actually beginning to collapse and all around them, and so you could almost sense that there's a huge paradigm shift going on globally. And despite the fact that the one percenters have total, material and physical wealth to control the masses, there's a shift that's coming to where, well, hey, hold on. You know what I mean? If the masses stop, clapping like seals, and stop, like sheep. I I don't know how my sound effect of a sheep just sounded right then, bro. But it was ridiculous. I sounded ridiculous. But yeah, it's like it's pathetic.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I fully agree. And
Yeah.
the other thing as well, when it comes to what's happening at present in the world and all of that, is the present powers. I think they know that the tide's changing for them, and that they're on their way out. And things are changing. Things are changing fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, that. So I think they know, and they're like rats on a sinking ship. They're sort of thing.
Yeah. Hey, just while I'm looking into the chat, because I've stopped rambling on. There's a Faikava. Yeah, I mean, he feels that you put these panels up for an old guy like I'm presuming myself to ramble on. So, yeah, I think to myself, well, put your hand between your legs, hold whatever you've got underneath it, and come up.
Yeah,
Come on, request to come up,
yeah, exactly.
because you're basically sacking it, by sitting down there and having an irrelevant opinion. Come on up, fucker, over. But anyway,
Yeah. I'll just check to see if I got any. Oh yes, he's asked to come up. Cool. I just checked my invites. It's just him who wants to come up. Cool. Lovely. Welcome.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Whaikawaka. Thank you for coming up.
Hey, that comment wasn't a hate comment, to be quite honest with you. I have come across a lot of snowball stuff, which I would say very crazy takes, and I do find them interesting, and I do like it. It's very refreshing to hear. My comment in that regard was only because I've come across a few times as I was scrolling a few times over the last few days, and every time I come past, mana here is always, am I wrong here? Am I wrong? It was an observation of what I have seen in the last few days. Now, you can check in your lives the stats of how many minutes someone was on your panel as well. So that was more of that. And just listening in, I wasn't really more to hate. It was just like following. We were going into the oil and then Evilist, and then I was like, oh, where are we going? But yeah, it was more so that wasn't really to hate, but yeah, to grab what's between me and come up. Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. But yeah, it was just because I wanted to see. Because even looking at your
Whakamaramo. Yeah, enlighten me on what you mean by rambling on.
Oh, you ran. I just explained what you ran over like 50 topics and then 1 minute.
You explained yourself to yourself, and rambling on. What do you mean? What am I rambling on about?
You ran over 50
what do you
topics.
Consider rambling?
I've just told you that you ran.
No. You haven't told me. You told me jack shit. You've
You
got to
ran
tell
over.
me some bullshit.
Well, you're not letting
I'm
me tell
rambling
you
on
that.
about what? Oil, Evilites, you know,
You
bro,
ran over
you wouldn't
50
have a
different
clue
topics
if you
in
come
like
up
2
here.
minutes.
And what's I'm supposed to stay the line because you
No,
say I have to.
no, I'm
And stay
telling you
the
an
line of what?
observation. I'm giving you an observation. I'm literally doing exactly what you told me to do, and now you're angry and won't let me tell you. You asked me.
Tell me what
No,
then?
no. So let
I
me ask
don't
you. Were
understand
you on
what
the
you're
panel
trying to
yesterday?
tell me.
No, no, no. Were you on?
Yeah. I don't understand
See,
what you're
now
trying to
you're
tell me.
aggressive. Now you're aggressive, and all I did was come and give you an observation.
Aggressive.
I gave an
No, I'm
observation in the.
stating a point that you can't reference to what I'm asking you. What do you mean?
I just told you you went over 50 different topics in
And
the.
so what? So what?
That's
What was
called
there anything?
rambling on.
No, it's rambling on if you can't hear because there's too much shit
Oh.
between your ears.
Can I make another observation?
Yeah, please, by all
Right?
means.
I saw that. I've seen this guy ramble on for quite some time, and I'll explain why. He's asked me the same question 3 times, and I've answered it the same. I've answered it the same. He went over 50, 40
With
topics, whatever, in the
absolutely
last.
no
No.
enlightenment or knowledge whatsoever. You're pissing in a pocket of bullshit. That's what you're doing.
Here it
You wouldn't
shows
have a clue.
already how aggressive you are.
You're just full of it yourself, bro. What are you trying to challenge me on?
I'm not trying to challenge you on anything. Look
This
here.
old dude rambling on about what? You're
You're
telling me
rambling on
what?
random topics, right?
On random topics.
Here,
What's the
here. Let
content?
me. I'm trying
of
to
those
answer you.
topics?
I'm trying to answer
No,
you, but you won't
you
listen.
aren't answering me.
All right.
You're giving me
I'm trying to answer.
your perspective that's just got nothing.
You
There's
asked
nothing,
me.
no
What do you mean I'm
content
rambling
in it.
on? I'm
Rambling on and
giving you an
rambling on, and
example.
now I'm getting, of course, I'm getting frustrated and full of anxiety because here you're a shit
Oh
talker,
my
bro.
gosh, here we go.
You've
with
come up here to
anxiety.
talk shit. That's what I'm saying.
Here, am I able to, or are you going to cut me off while I try to answer your question?
Yeah, no,
Or you're
please,
not
my
gonna,
cover. Make a point. Sorry, I'll just yeah.
you know? No, the point is, look, Snowball, I've seen your content quite a bit, and I've seen a lot of like snippets of like a little posts and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find them quite interesting. I've always wanted to see you talk more. I've always wanted to see you talk more because I find it interesting. I come into this live yesterday. Mana here is always talking. I think the other time he was always talking as well. Now, when he asked me what I mean by rambling on, it's because he goes, this is what I mean. He goes over 50 different topics in such a short time, right? And if we go by your live, let's say you were live for an hour yesterday, I would
Why
say
do you have?
he was no, let me finish. Are you gonna be like the far left
I
that
need
won't
to
let
respond
me
though.
finish the point?
I need to respond. What is wrong with what I ramble on
It's
about?
not- I never said it was
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. To be fair, Mana, I don't think he's saying there's anything wrong. I think it's just a observation.
Observation?
He's just saying what he sees and what he hears.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think he
I'm not
needs to
making a
word
critique
himself
on it.
properly
So
because
here,
this old
in the
dude
little 5
rambling
minutes,
on.
in the little
What does that say?
Well, I
Sorry?
What are
interpreted.
you implying?
No, I interpreted that
What?
as like an observation mixed with humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a humorous sort of like
Yeah, that's what
observation.
it was.
Yeah, like if someone were to see me and be
For
like,
example, when I said rambling on, or I should have said it, maybe I should have said it nicely. I was like, oh, we've covered 50 topics in a minute. Maybe that would have been a little bit less aggressive or anything like that. You know, but
No, it
we were
was
going over,
offensive.
for example, you were going over people getting bombed and then no legs and then Evilus and then oils and what the oils is happening right
Yeah,
now and all those things.
but here, bro,
It's an
listen,
observation.
here, and what were you, implying, what you were listening to me about the legs? I was making a point, in respect to Donald Trump, right? Being the most powerful person on the face of the planet, going on and making a statement at a press conference about, and I don't know if you actually saw it, but he rambled on about how, yep, they've bombed all the people in Iran, and people are walking around with no arms and no legs. So you've got, an idiot like that who's supposed, and that was my point about the arms and no legs, the evil. See, I don't know what you were actually listening to, or did you listen
All right,
to
Mana.
what my content was?
If I was
Because you
asking,
came back.
when you were talking
Sorry.
when you were talking in the last 15, 20 minutes straight, no interruptions, did you cover more than just that, or did you cover like a million things? I commented on it of an observation I saw. I was like, oh, it's being rambled on. And then you said to grab my nuts, basically, to come on and say what I mean. So I did what you requested. You asked me what I meant. I gave you the answer of what I meant, and you got very aggressive and saying that I'm bullshit in this. And I wasn't even critiquing, saying it was bad or wrong. I'm just giving you the observation that I saw of today, yesterday, and a few lives. Now, look, if there's no hate to you, this is Snowball. This is observation. This is Snowball's live. I would like it if you would talk, if Snowball talked a little bit more, because I see a lot of his views, and then be able to, for us to kind of hop in and send our messages and question it, because here, which in the Pacifica Islands, the very Christian, very very Christian region and area, and I know that Snowball's kind of Snowball's kind of the opposite of that.
Okay.
But I
All right.
apologize if I came off like
I
that.
understand.
It was
now.
more of
I understand.
yeah.
I understand. I
it was
understand
more
where
it was more on that,
yeah,
but it
where
was
you're
never an
coming
attack
from, and
on. It was never an attack on that, but it was cut it from humor, and then now he came
well, I
into
think it just come down to you. Your wording.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's was how it was taken. I had to read it like an old dude rambling on.
Yeah.
Well,
There's not again. Yeah, that was me being cheeky, but we're all going to be old. We're all
it's
going to
just
be. You
like
know
me
what I mean?
being cheeky.
There's nothing
I
wrong with
could-
it. We all.
Yeah, well, neither is there anything wrong with telling me that you've got shit in your ear.
yeah.
You know
Well, I
what I mean?
wouldn't know, but that
Well,
was
I
more.
don't, because just
more the
like you
point.
do.
But I think later if I
I was
see
having a
more
bit of fun telling you that.
Yeah.
Grab your hands between your legs and come on up.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
I
same
think what
here.
I
I
say
thought
is
that
funny.
was funny, and then it got a little
You
bit
know what I mean?
aggressive. When you were like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" I was like, "Whoa, relax." I'm just a chill guy, man. But the view that Snowball here, and
You're
what
just
I
a
do
chill
like
guy.
about this panel is this view is a little bit different than the view that I'm always seeing across Pacifica.
Yeah, very.
A very
You don't
Christian
get
background.
too many pagan leftists amongst Pacifica.
Yes, I see the anti-monogamy, queer pro-life in your which I find it quite humorous in a way, because anti-monogamy, queer pro-life, it's like very left, middle, right, kind of view.
Yeah.
And I always liked people who are a little bit spread across the board instead of extreme on one way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
I feel like
So you're a guesser. You do a lot of guessing.
Oh, I'm reading here. Anti-monogamy. Anti-monogamy is a leftist. What do you call it? Kind of stance. Pro-life is more on the right side. Queer can be middle or left. So that's why I said it's a spread on the spectrum of left and right. And I do enjoy that. So it's not a lot of people have those, because anti-monogamy and pro-life, are kind of like far in spectrums of different left and right. I grew up in the States. I moved here in New Zealand about 5-6 years ago. I absolutely love it here on the quality of life. One thing I notice here in New Zealand is the young people are not really into their politics as we are in the States. It's an observation that I've found here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's chucked on the New Zealand way of life of really chill. Yeah, bro, you're all right. Kind of vibe as well. And so some of these things, seeing some Snowball's kind of content is quite refreshing to kind of see it here and not at all kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that was only it.
So if
And
I could
maybe
get into some of the things on my TikTok bio that I have listed. So I wanted to get into that. So anti-monogamy. So one of the things that I think, and I think any sort of Christian or Muslim, if they were to think about it, they would sort of agree with me that you're not going to be left or right if you're a faithful Christian or Muslim or whatever, Buddhist or whatever. But you're going to be some sort of mixture. You're not going to be perfectly left or you might be mostly one or the other. I suspect mostly right, particularly on social issues, if we're honest. But I think it's going to be more of a mixed bag than people think. And to me, it's not that I'm a leftist first, which I find a lot of people are who are religious. They're sort of Republican first. You know what I mean? But it's that I'm a pagan first, meaning the Maori tradition. And I come at it from that perspective first and foremost and look for what's compatible. And so I wanted to comment specifically on anti-monogamy because I know a lot of people wouldn't sort of understand that one. I'm not saying what other people should do or whatever. It's actually a Tainui thing. The god Uinuku, if you're most loyal to him, then you will live non-monogamously. That's the tradition. And so that's why I put that there. It's got nothing to do with sort of advocating. I would never advocate for people to be non-monogamous or I don't care. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I'm just saying my devotion to Uenuku and the tradition is that he asks you to be non-monogamous type of thing. So yeah, that's what I wanted to get at. Queer, well, I'm just being upfront and honest about who I am. And as for pro-life, again, that sort of goes back to Tumatawinga. And what did he say? And Tumatawinga said that you're not allowed to unalive babies, including those of your enemy. And so that makes me think, all right, if that's the case, then what about the issue of abortion? And scientifically speaking, it is a separate human being at the moment of conception. There's no debate around that, scientifically speaking. The debate is philosophical. Is the baby a person? And to me, I don't like to get into that whole personhood debate because it kind of sounds a bit Nazi Germany, if I'm honest with you. And so, therefore, I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life because of Tumatawinga, I'm going to be honest with you. So that's sort of an explanation of my points in my bio, if that makes sense.
Oh no, definitely. No, I absolutely love that. I would consider myself more right with a lot of left tendencies. Um, and a lot of my left friends are like, "Well, you're just far right." I was like, "Okay, all right. I guess we were not allowed to have a left arm. There's things that and I believe, and I love that. I love that. I don't really know about the paganistic or the pagan gods of the Maori, which is really cool to hear things like that. That these values that people in the West are fighting over today have been instilled in our paganistic, in the Pacifica Maori gods for thousands of years.
Yeah, yeah,
And right now, all these values are being pushed, and now sometimes with Christianity coming in, it's somewhat saying that they're bringing new light, of new values and new morals. When the gods that you just mentioned here, it sounds like the teachings have been there for a very, very long time. So I think
very
it's really
much.
cool.
Hey, bro, hey, Faikova, can I ask where you from, bro?
I was born in California.
Yeah.
I'm Samoan by descent. I was what they call an anchor baby. Anchor babies in the United States. You know what an anchor baby. So
Yeah.
in the nineties, before the USA got smart and got on with it, whenever the mom is about to give birth or due, she goes on a quote unquote holiday to the United States. Right. This is in the '90s. So mom went over for a better future for me. That once you're born in the United States, you're officially, immediately become a citizen. So that happened in the 90s. And in the 2000s, America caught on. They're like, no, we're not going to do that. But we'll give the kid the green cards. And at 18, they can come here and apply for nationalization. Golly, I'm struggling there. But yeah, I was born in California, mostly raised there and back in Samoa, but majority of my life is in the States, all over Texas and stuff like that. But I moved here about 6 years ago, and I really enjoy it here. I actually came to visit mom and
Do,
dad because they moved here, and I came here on a 2 week
mm,
holiday that's now almost 6 years. I've never been back since. I haven't left New Zealand Aotearoa since. So, but
That's
yeah, I
beautiful.
enjoy it.
So your
and
goddess,
and do
your
you? So,
no, please go
sorry,
ahead.
where you go, bro?
Oh, I was about to
No, I
say,
was just wanting to.
hey, your national kaitiaki would be Nawhanua.
Yes,
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's
yes.
something I'm also. You probably seen my videos of me talking about it,
Mm,
saying, that I'm a big believer in us Polynesians sticking to our gods and our ways as opposed to embracing foreign ways and others, other people's systems and beliefs and stuff. We should stick to our own. Our own gods and goddesses and stuff as Polynesians. That's one thing I'm a big advocate for. But at the same time, I don't want to be divisive, so I want to be able to
mm,
create that space where if you're Polynesian and you're Christian, you're Polynesian. Let's talk Turkey. Let's be united, and then in a sort of
yeah,
as family, let's have that discussion about what religion we should be. And obviously, I want you to be, more
yeah.
towards the pagan
So
side.
I've always grown up Christian. Growing up, I remember you had a video last year, a long time ago. I think this is when you just started, like barely followers or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I remember you touched on this topic, and at work we couldn't have discussed it. We discussed it at work, where I work. And one of the guys I work with is a psychologist therapist, German man, very, very intelligent. And he talked about, in Christianity, it's almost become like a colonization culture. Um, and if you look at it, a lot of us, because we're so in tune with culture, that Christianity has almost become Samoan culture, Tongan culture, in a way, if you look at it from an outside. Because it was hard for me to step out and look in, you're only in looking out. So one of the discussions that we had that was spiked from that video was because of how culturally ingrained our people are. And some people are Christians because mom and dad goes to church and everyone goes to church. It's an expectation, more so a conversion, you know?
yeah,
Um, and I think that's where everyone, and I enjoy that um, you're not divisive and stuff like that, everyone does. I believe, I don't want to assume wrong that you stand for everyone to live their life how they want, as long as you don't hurt each other, and I think that's the main thing that I stand for as well. But yeah, no. So I love that.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
I did a debate quite some time ago with a guy called Context Podcast. We were meant to do another debate, I think, but I never heard from him or whatever. And we debated exactly this: should Polynesians be Christian or traditional pagan uh, type get up, and that went really well. I really enjoyed it. I love walking into a lion's den. I love walking into an environment where everyone sort of more or less opposes me, and I'm debating everyone. I thought I saw. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a very good experience.
Can I ask you this, Snowball?
Yeah, please.
So I've been on your panel about 3 times. This is about my third time, and I'm not too sure. The last time was probably about 3 months ago or something, and Off the Grid was on here as well. Can I ask you? See, I've never been given the impression, from you, because it's been a space of sharing with you and being mindful of the differences between the lens in which you view things as much as I do. So it's been about respect. Okay? Being respect. Have you ever felt I've been disrespectful in any way in how I've rambled on about things to you?
No, I haven't felt disrespected
Okay.
at all. Yeah, no.
Well, just in saying that, you see, that's something that I already know I haven't been. And if I've been disrespectful, and you held me up about it, then I would, I would humbly apologize if that's what I did. And that is the difference between what I read from Fight Cover, which, it seems to be he may have worded what he meant differently. See,
Yeah, I was being a cheeky little bastard. I'm sorry.
yeah, because for me, I've been rooted in my whakapapa, my genealogy. You know what I mean? And, I stay true to that. But I will also do exactly what you do. I will, take on board the opinion of anyone else's, whether he's a Muslim, whether he is, from the Middle East, and so long, even in the indigenous Polynesian culture, of which, throughout the Te Whanganui Kiwa, the Pacific Ocean, we actually are, we're family.
Yeah.
We're family by blood, direct. And you see, for me, 31 years ago, I had to unpack, right, and strip away the layers of colonized suppression of my culture, of my ancient, stories, because that was my Bible. That's our Bible. That's our encyclopedia, and it's, what it does is it highlights, for me, the ancient sequence of creation. Because in the Māori, what you call Māori cosmology, the ancient sequence of creation is not just a story, but a whakapapa. It's a genealogy that describes the evolution from nothingness to the world of light.
Yeah.
And this is only a three-phase process called the three pillars of existence. And you see, when I started unpacking, by getting the English translation, because from my reo, because that's the only way that you can view how your ancestors, and what they already knew. And so I found that the most common translation from our cultural worldview, like through the Māori lens, of the primary creation sequence, is what I needed. I needed for my peace of mind, and the calm in my heart, to understand who the F am I, where have I come from, and so on and so forth. And once I realized that, there is only one creator, there is only one God, there is only, for every human that is walking on the face of this planet. However, the creation stories that give us that, that whakamaramata, that enlightenment, or that knowledge and that wisdom, I had to go and unpack, and that's what I've been trying to share space with someone that, in the end, respectfully, of wanting to do with you. See, because I know that for me personally, when I get asked, oh, do you know what's your whakapapa? Well, it's not a simple question for me to answer, because I'm not going to say, oh, my father, my mother, blah, 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 blah. That's where they're from, that's where I'm from. No, I've got to actually go back to the beginning, and that's where I go to the three pillars, te kore, te pō, te ao marama. Because inside there are the creation stories that give you the backstories to those creation stories. And so when you realize that te kore is translated means, more than just those two words, te kore. It actually means, in essence, the void of nothingness. And that was a realm and state of infinite potential, where the consciousness of nothingness had never existed. And then that conscious realm of all potential is from where the eternal source, the God creator, and the life force, it flowed from there, creating and giving rise to the essence of everything that exists.
Yes.
And note, and I just want to note that in physics term, this mirrors the quantum field of potential, which is the unseen foundation for which all matter and energy emerges. Okay? So this unpacking and stripping away by bringing, the whakatauki, the whakatauaki, the tauparapara, all the incantations, all the ceremonies, all the moteatea, all the waiata. It brings all this, into realizing that, holy shit, this, is this the level our ancestors were really,
Yeah.
were embedded in, and like Te Po. So, the darkness, the long darkness, a long period of darkness where, Rangi Nui and Papatuanuku were embraced in the embodiment of each other. And that realm was known as the realm of shaping, where energy, structure, and cosmic laws organized the universe. It is the sacred gestation, that the space from where order quietly emerges, preparing, for the world of light, Te Ao Marama. And like the structuring forces in cosmology, patterns and structure begin to form the underlying potential. So, I Te Ao Marama, is where the great world of light and manifestation is what that means. So the world as we know it today, was created after the children of Rangi and Papa separated their parents to let light in. You see, and where life awakens and consciousness is eventually revealed. So here the patterns of creation first seeded in Te Kore and formed in Te Po and actually realized in Te Ao Marama. So this reflects the emergence of light, matter, and complexity that modern physics observes in the unfolding universe. So Te Kore Te Po and Te Ao Marama is an ancient ancestral Māori wisdom. And it is known as the three pillars of existence.
Yes.
And they herald the pūrākau.
Yes.
They herald the pūrākau, where each of these pūrākau, there's 72, that 72 of these pūrākau, are all backstories within those 72, and it's known as revelations. The revelation of the manual to life is, from our whakapapa. Well, I can only speak on my behalf, okay? Because I can't speak on any other Māori. But that's, and that's just, that ain't even a part of the piece of a million-piece puzzle that our ancestors, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
They knew.
Yeah,
sorry,
because you had Te Kore, the void, the nothingness, and then Io Mātua Kore, transition that into Te Po, the long night, the darkness. So it was a sort of two-stage level of production. And then through that, he created Te Ao Marama, which is everything in existence. And everything that exists emanates outwards from Io Mātua Kore, including the lower deities, the lower gods, whether it be the departmental deities such as Rangi Nui, the Sky Father, Papatuanuku, the Earth Mother, Tangaloa, the ocean, the god, and so on and so forth, as well as the deities below them, such as Maru, Uenuku, tribal, deified tribal ancestors, and so on and so forth. And so it all comes out of first Te Kore, then Te Po, and then the world that we have now, Te Ao Marama, through the acts, the pure actuality of io matua kore. And so, yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely on the money with all of that you're talking about. I love it. Yes, Papa Wehe. You're absolutely right. It does. Te kore to te pō to te ao marama gives us the process of healing, exactly. And when you think about it as well, it sort of mimics the process of birth. If you think about it, te kore, the void, the nothingness, but there's also potentiality. And then, a boink, man and woman. And then you have te pō, where the baby is inside the womb. It's like a long night. And then te ao marama, where they exit the woman, the womb, whare tangata, and enter into the world of light, te ao marama. So absolutely, and this isn't original to me, by the way, this analogy. This comes from the tohunga himself, Huani te Whatahoro. So, yeah, very interesting. And so, yeah, all of existence, all of reality emanates outwards from io matua kore. Yes, black is not a primary color. If anything, it's the absence of color. So, the absence, you see, so we're getting into some high level cosmological stuff, but what something is not is just as important as to what it is. That the presence and absence of these two dual sort of forces within Māori cosmology, and they're both equally important. What I am is just as important as what I am not. That's the traditional Māori thinking. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. With te pō, te kore, and so on and so forth. Yeah, genealogy, there we go, I'll bring it up. So I have a book. Well, it's not mine. It's from the Tohunga Te Rangi Kaeke. And so this is how it starts. You have te kore, which is the void, energy, nothingness, potential. Te kore te whiwhia, which is the void in which nothing is possessed. Te kore te rawea, the void in which nothing is felt. Te kore I ai, the void with nothing in union. Te kore te wiwia, the space without boundaries. And then we have te pō. So we have te pō nui, the great night. Te pō roa, the long night. Te pō uri uri, the deep night. Te pō kere kere, the intense night. And te pō tifa tifa, the dark night. And then te pō ki, the night in which nothing is seen. Te pō tango tango, the intensely dark night. And te pō pāpā, the night feeling. Te pō namu namu, ki tai ao, the night of seeking the passage of the world. And te pō tāhuri atu, the night of restless turning. Te pō tāhuri mai ki tai ao, the night of turning towards the revealed world. And te whaiao, the glimmer of dawn. And te ao marama, the bright light of day. So those are the subdivisions that the Tohunga Te Rangi Kaheke gives to te kore and te pō. It is a whakapapa, a genealogical chart, if you will, and it represents the transition over time from te kore, the realm of potential being, to te pō, darkness, through te ao marama, the bright light of day, which te ao marama literally, when translated, actually means the daylight moon. And so what that means is, because sometimes you can see the moon during the day, and what that's getting at is that oftentimes there is a little bit of the last process still left. So a common analogy that Te Rangi Kāke Tohunga likes to give is when you have a child who's not a baby anymore, but there's still a baby here. You see what I mean? So there's always elements of the last state of being left over. So, yes. Now, in some traditions, te kore is where ultimate reality can be found, and so you could sort of, I guess you could liken that to some of the quantum physics stuff that we have today, but I personally wouldn't bother reading any quantum physics type stuff because it'll just, God, man, that stuff is just, you know, Blocker 210 by the kōrero, bro. Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you. Papa Wehe, thank you so much, and that's, yeah, you're very insightful. Exactly, the gestation of an idea or thought being you. You're absolutely right. And that's the thing as well, is bodily sort of processes and stuff is always used by in traditional pūrākau and so on and so forth in order to illustrate things. And so, as Papa Wehe has put here, rebirthing the mind by reaching into te kore te pō to bring through to te ao marama, exactly. And so rebirthing and so on and so forth. And so, not to be shameless and sort of advertised by Substack, but my prose deliberately mimics that sort of bodily anatomical style of, veins and blood and saliva and bones and so on and so forth. And so, yeah.
There's so much to unpack, in the conversations in and around whakapapa. It's, it's a space of where, some of the kōrero, it's prohibited, because when you enter that realm of the tapu, you got to be mindful, also that, an application or platform like this is really, you know what I mean? It's a noa,
Yeah.
It is a, and so, although it's okay to just, share space and time and kōrero with it, some of the mātauranga is, it's prohibited because the depth, is where you then begin to enter the realm of the tapu. And it was just like, I think earlier you mentioned, those three pillars, te kore, te pō, te ao marama, is the similar, and it is on point, that of how a woman's, the whare tangata, right?
Yeah.
The sacred house of life. What it does is it actually mirrors the creative source itself. For there is where, life is nurtured, life is created, is right there. And, holding the soul as it journeys from te kore, that realm of, potential through to te pō and, releasing itself into, and upon the river of Te Atua, the blood that she sacrifices as we all come out, through that river, through that awa. And, it's like she doesn't merely just give birth. She ushers a soul into existence and guiding that formless into form, and that was right from the inception of when her little tadpoles and your father's little tadpoles, went to go and have a bit of a hongi and said, here, I'm going to create this little shit today,
Yeah.
So, it's profoundly a sacred and precious role. And, I believe, we're in the time of where divine femininity, the feminine divine, is pretty much what we're waiting for because the paradigm shift is going to be, one hell of a, move that, you see.
I agree.
I heard a prayer. Bro, one day, but something was missing. Matua, what is it? I think the Ratana. Matua tama wairua tapu. Mena anahera pono, right? Yeah. Well, I kept on thinking to myself, and my brother of mine, he ended up writing a waiata, and in respect to what we felt was, the seclusion of, matua whaia tama wairua tapu. You know what I mean? Because one day I heard this prayer, but something was missing. They forgot about the mother. The fire, because she's always been the link, to mankind. But she's been forgotten. She's been forgotten to how, sacred her, her existence to, without her, you know what I mean? Is basically what that statement is making. You know what I mean? So how can you forget the mother? Well, you forgot about her where at the creation, the pūrākau will tell you. And the pūrākau within all those pūrākau. You know what I mean? So all the creation stories unpacked, it divinely, reconnects you, to the most profound and prolific ancient wisdom, of all time. And to me that is, that is what's missing in, humanity's life, is that interconnectedness, and unfortunately, I share space on my platform with Native American Indians. I've been for about the last 4 months, trying to win TikTok, a TikTok idol, because I do a lot of singing on my platform, bro.
Nice.
Yeah, because I love singing. I feel that, music, speaks louder than words. You know what I mean? It always has, in some sense, with us as a native, tangata whenua. So I share space though with a lot of other Native Americans, Mexicano, Polynesians, and so I'm about to kind of like just change up and just use my platform for that space.
Nice, good on you.
And that's just to share space with other people.
So I just wanted to answer Blocker 21's question about Modi. But please, what were you going to say? You were just at the end of something, sorry. Hey, Mano, you were just at the tail end of something before I cut you off. Did you want to finish or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, basically what I was going to do is I was going to take my leave, bro.
Oh, okay.
I was going to take off and I just feel like singing.
Good on you.
So I'm going to go back to my platform. But I've got a couple of notifications from some people that want to have a bit of a catch up with me. So I just want to thank you for having me up. And I apologize for the little, bump, with,
all good.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Nothing to worry about.
It wasn't my live. This isn't my live. So, but, I pitch myself, I'm only human, bro. You know what I mean? I'm going to get triggered and, how I deal with it, how I respond or react is, it's all on me. Yeah, so
That's all
I just want to apologize and,
And no offense.
take care, bro.
Thank you.
I'll keep in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Ka kite.
tell them.
Hey,
Uh,
Snowball, how are you?
yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Can you hear me, good brother?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh,
Uh,
fantastic, cool. I'm the fellow who did Stitch to your video, bro. And then it was on the, well, I mean, I don't want to go repeating it, but it was Can You Be Christian and uh, Polynesian or a Māori at the same time or something? I'm not going to
oh,
go ahead and repeating it.
yeah. What was that?
But we,
What was it on this account that you were using?
yes, it was. It's just the name is different. I've gone ahead and changed the name.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I don't.
however,
I
no, that's
usually
okay. That's just
respond to stitches, but if you wanted to tell me your
Oh,
point, I'd
you
love
did.
to.
We had a whole conversation in the
Oh,
we had a whole conversation in the comment section of it, bro. Yeah. But it left off at That's the only reason I've come up now because we left off at when I asked something along the lines of we were talking about religion in there also, and then I asked something along the lines of Te Ao Māori, and oh yep, that's right, double tainui, absolutely. Someone in the comment section said double tainui, and then
yeah.
you said I think it's the way forward for our people. And the only question I want to ask you, bro, I'm not here to debate, or I just
Yeah.
literally
No,
just want
all
to
good, all
understand where you
good.
come from, brother.
Yeah.
Solid. So do you believe that, like tikanga Māori or the religion of our ancestors, can be compatible to like Christianity or Islam or just any ideology today?
Um, no. And here's why. I know a lot of people think I'm taking a sort of very hardline approach, but it's actually, and I was actually surprised when I got a lot of hate from Christians because I would have thought they would have agreed with me. It's not my position that tikanga Māori or Māoritanga is not compatible with Christianity. It's the position of Jesus himself and of Paul especially. And the reality is that
Sure.
there are aspects of Māoritanga, integral aspects that I might add, aspects that are central to the entire sort of system, if you will. That and I've talked to various Christians and managed to get confirmation from them, just in case I was misreading the text. If you might have seen, I don't know if you've seen it. I did a video recently where I said I don't hate Jesus anymore. I don't know if you saw that or not, but basically, what I did was I admitted that I had misread Jesus, which I'm happy to do if I'm wrong. If I'm full of shit, then I want to know. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
Yeah, no,
so,
definitely, brother.
yeah, and so I have asked Christians this, and from a Catholic priest all the way down to a very good friend on here, Delon, who is a Protestant Calvinist, and they all say that there's just certain things you can't do if you are to be a Christian. And engaging with lower deities, spirits, is forbidden from a traditional Christian biblical sort of worldview. And so,
But
uh,
but not specifically though. Like not specifically. There's no instructions manual in regards to. So, for example, that's a grey area there, brother. Definitely a
well,
grey area because there's
see,
no.
that's the thing is I've consulted with them, and they even shared a passage from the Bible. Can't remember exactly what it is, but it talks about how can only serve. I'll try and bring it up. God or mammon, but it says more than that. It's actually relevant to us as Māori, I think, in Matthew 6:24, because he even gets into the gods of your ancestors. So uh, here it says, I can't remember, but basically, it's several verses. Basically, the way that they define worship, which is very interesting, um, is to give sacrifice, essentially to give sacrifice to something. That's how they define worship, and they define sacrifice not as a literal sacrifice like getting a beast and doing that, but
Sure, sure.
giving up of something, giving up of
Yep.
something towards the deity in question. And that's what we do as Māori. I mean, the whāngai ho ceremony, that we do every
Sure.
year at Matariki, I mean, that is just straight up paganism, let's be honest. The fact that during certain haka, particularly Te Tumataonga, you're literally meant to draw blood, that is straight up paganism. And so it seems to be it's not so much me saying that Māoritanga is incompatible with the Christian faith, but rather the Christian faith itself saying that it's these churches, theologians, and their own scriptures, and even Jesus himself saying this essentially.
Sure. So I understand you from that view. What I mean is, in a nutshell, if so tikanga Māori or te ao Māori and our religions are still around today, or te ao Māori religion is still around today, and it's still practiced in the world of te ao Māori. So what my question was, is it just as much as an ideology as Islam or Christianity?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would argue...
That's why I requested to get up, brother. I mean, it's not something that we could write to each other, bro.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a very good question. I would say, depending on how you define ideology, but ideology, my understanding is it's something that spreads. And I would say no, because Māoritanga is solely for Māori. And so, therefore, definitionally, it's not as ideological as Christianity or Islam, which they view themselves as universal, as for everyone. I learned this recently. I've been talking to some Catholics especially. They don't we often talk about the Māori atua, right? Ngā atua, the Māori gods. They don't talk about the Catholic God. They just refer to him as God. Because they view the Catholic God as this universal, all-encompassing thing, not specific to just them. And so...
Well,
yeah, please.
I would say, Snowball, I would say just for this conversation or any future conversations that we may have, I really don't think Catholicism would be the best religion to base as the example for when we're generally speaking, only because in the Christian world, brother, they're probably the most pagan out of all of them when it comes to the, and I mean, so when it comes to intermediaries and when it comes to statues and all these idols and figures. So, I mean, like if you were to say something like, let's just say, Protestant, that would probably be the best, because Protestant is everything that, how would you say that Catholicism isn't.
That applies to Protestants that I've talked to. They've said the same thing. They don't say the Protestant God. They just say God, and they view the Protestant God as universal, all-encompassing. We as Māori, we have a tapu on preaching to others, on seeking converts. This is part of the controversy around tāmoko, people non-Māori getting tāmoko, right? Because they are loyal. Their whakapapa is dedicated to another entity, another spirit. Protestants, they don't think that way. They don't actually, to be honest, and this is a little bit crass of me to say it this way, but I'm using this partially in jest. They don't really give a rat's ass. They'll go to Papua New Guinea and preach, and they have no fear of the old spirits that live in Papua New Guinea coming after them. Like, they don't give a shit. They will go there and upset those atua that are there, because they believe their atua to be supreme, universal, and so on and so forth. And I actually respect that in many ways. I respect the balls that you got to have to do that, because I would never do that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll as a Christian myself, brother. I mean, I'm not a hardcore one, but I mean, I tell myself, listen, if I was to ever do like podcasting or something, I'd like go to haunted places because that's about as far as I would go, bro. As my balls will take me to haunted houses, brother. You know what I mean? But other than that, I'm not leaving this first world beautiful country. But hey, Snowball, thank you so much for having me up, bro. I'll let the bro Papa talk to you now. I only wanted to ask you that one question, brother, and I got 2 answers out of it, and I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, thank you. And if you want to have a dialogue or even a debate, I would love to do that. I'll be respectful the whole time too. I'm not a confrontational person.
Likewise, brother. I've seen you debate, bro.
Oh, thank you.
And no, I appreciate it. It was sort of one-sided, but no, absolutely, bro. We're one and the same when it comes to that, bro. At the end of the day, you can't argue a theory.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
But anywho's, brother, have a wonderful day, and thanks for having me up. And have a good day, bro.
Thank you. You too. Have a good evening.
No worries, brother. Later.
That was very interesting.
Yeah. Kia ora, Papa. Thank you for coming up.
Kia ora. I just want to talk about the essence of whakapapa. I find, okay, so I'm one of the lucky ones, and you're probably one of the lucky ones that know our whakapapa through all its essence, eh? And can understand it from any view, any corner of what whakapapa stands for ourselves, because we carry our whakapapa. See, you carry your whakapapa well. And that's where I think the percentage of our Māori that don't know their whakapapa or can't get the trueness of that whakapapa where the essence is. So they jump into churches to find something to replace it. I sat down with my nephews who wanted to follow Muslim, and they came and saw me, and they spent the whole day with me. And I heard their views, and I heard what they would like to do, make a change, move in some movement that's going to give them that support and some part of truth in their lives. And I praised them, but I also turned around and had a wānanga, what is the true essence of whakapapa? And they all looked at me, well, our grandparents. I said, no. Where's the whakapapa in your anatomy? And you'll find that you didn't need to search or look. You just need to go inside. I says, I'll tell you, I gave them the story. There's 72 atua that sit inside, that are males that sit inside our body and on the outside of our body. Then I gave them the 72 atua wahine, where they are, what pumps the veins, and how the veins are related, and how the lungs and everything all interwovens with the atua wahine and the atua tāne. We finished midnight that night. And I said, so if you want the answers are within you. If you want the confidence and the power to be you, to stand in your might, get the mirror. Our answers are on our faces when we look in that mirror. Your eyes, I said the eyes of Roiho, they turn the shadow around so you could see out of your eyes. So, after that, they didn't cross over, but they kept coming back to have wānanga, And I think that's the potion. That is the potion that needs to be wānanga around the country with all our rangatahi and all that. Kura kaupapa and whare could only give a speck of it. They only give a speck of it. But we need that potion of understanding our true whakapapa so that our children can stand in their might, can stand in their oneness, and be able to understand other religions without even judging or casting a stone. If we give that and build on that wānanga, I think that Te Ao Māori will be definitely alive with our mokopuna and our kids. Because I seem to frown when I hear Christianism. I hear the Bible.
Oh, your sound is thing. Are you all good? Okay. All right. Well, that's on. I think he muted himself, or I muted him. I don't know. But yeah, oh, my wife here again. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Papa, on that point. Is that we don't have institutions, and I think that's why so many of our rangatahi and our people of all ages, when you think about it, not just rangatahi, go towards Islam and Christianity and so on and so forth, is that we need, like you said, those wānanga, we need those institutions, those literal buildings, if you will, meeting places and so on and so forth, where people can come and engage with their whakapapa, engage with what is theirs. Māoritanga is yours. But the problem is people, it's inaccessible for a lot of people. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that point, and it's something that I'm sort of behind the scenes, if you will, trying to work on is making it accessible for Māori, for fellow Māori to come as they are and to learn about their whakapapa and know who they are and know about their atua, the 72 atua that the Ranginui and Papatuanuku birthed and created, if you will. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Young Master Sama, we started up north, converted Māori chiefs Kawati and Hon. Actually, Te Ruki Kawati never converted to Christianity, like most old school rangatira, actually. That's a big myth, actually, that Māori converted in droves and all this. It actually isn't true. There is no potion to only what faith provides. Science can create the potions, LSD, frequency, acid. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think science is wonderful, but I don't think it's everything. Which they admit too. They admit that there's certain things that science cannot answer, uh, certain questions that science can't engage with. So, yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Uh, Papa, we're here. Awesome, you're doing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so the next subject I'm going to go on, so I won't be taking guest requests for a little while I rant, is I want to talk about leftism and being pro-life. Now, when I talk about being pro-life, I come at this first and foremost from the perspective of Māoritanga, I'm going to be honest with you. But in realizing that I'm engaging with non-Māori as well, I have to be able to persuade people. So I use outside non-Māori thinkers to try and persuade people on this particular issue. And so here we go. So my position is that historically the international left defended the value of marginalized life. Therefore, a consistent left politics today should oppose practices that devalue vulnerable human life. That's basically my position. And the thinker, the matua that I'm going to be drawing upon is Webb Dubois, the African American thinker. He was a great, great man, classically educated too. And so below is a Dubois grounded argument sort of structure that I have. And so this is it. So Dubois, number one, Dubois consistently argued that systems of power treat certain groups as expendable, and that the central task of radical politics is in fact to affirm their humanity. So, for example, in the Black Reconstruction era in America, Matua Dubois reframed the history of slavery and Reconstruction as a struggle over whether black life counted as fully human and politically valuable. The ruling classes, he argued, structured economic systems that sacrificed entire populations for profit. Think of society the way one might think of a living body. In Dubois' analysis, ruling systems sometimes behave like a diseased brain, sending cruel signals through the nerves of the economy, signals that treat certain populations as if they were dead skin to be scraped away rather than living tissue that feels pain. So, from this perspective, slavery treated black people as economically useful but morally disposable, like muscles forced to work while the rest of the body denies they feel. So, colonialism treated colonized populations as lives that could be exploited or destroyed, like organs harvested for someone else's survival, when you think about it. So, industrial capitalism often treats workers as replaceable bodies, as if human bodies and hands were sort of spare parts. This is Dubois' sort of analysis of the matter, right? And so, the international left, in sort of Dubois' telling, arose to challenge exactly this logic. It insisted that society is not a machine of interchangeable pieces, but a living organism in which every limb and organ matters. So, the first premise of the argument is this. Premise one: the historical international left emerged to defend the value of human life against systems that classify some lives as disposable. So, that's premise one. The second part that I want to draw upon is Dubois' critique of eugenic thinking. So Dubois sharply criticized the racial hierarchy behind eugenics. Many early 20th century elites, for example, argued that society should reduce the reproduction of undesirable populations. And so Dubois rejected this framing because it disguised structural injustice as biological inferiority. And so, in bodily terms, we could say that he argued that elites misdiagnosed the illness of society instead of examining the wounds inflicted by poverty, segregation, and exploitation. They blamed the bodies of the wounded themselves as if the blood flowing through oppressed communities were defective rather than injured. So his argument was essentially poverty and social struggle are products of injustice, not defective people. Labeling populations unfit is a tool of domination, like declaring a limb diseased in order to justify cutting it off. Thus, the deeper principle in Dubois is premise two. Political movements committed to justice must resist ideologies that classify certain human lives as less worthy of protection. So, number three, extending the principle to a pro life conclusion. So, from these premises, this is what I argue. If the international left historically opposed uh, uh, opposed systems that declared certain lives disposable, then it should also question any modern institution that treats developing human life as disposable based on convenience, social status, or economic pressures. And this is important because, scientifically speaking, the the consensus is that it is the fetus is a new life, a new, distinct, and separate life at the moment of conception. That the idea that this is, some sort of pre-life or whatever, it's just not true. And so the debate has shifted. A lot of people sort of don't know this. Embarrassingly, those that are pro-choice very very ignorant of this. Okay, the pro-life position that this is just a cluster of cells or whatever akin to, say, dead skin cells or whatever, is ignorant of the science that we have today. The science is that this is human. This is a separate life that is indeed part of our species. The debate is no longer around humanity. The debate is about personhood. And so, is this a person? Do they qualify for rights? And this is where Peter Singer comes along, the ethicist, the utilitarian ethicist. And what he argues is that because it's not a person, because a person is someone that understands their position in space and time and has projections of the future and so on and so forth, that logically, that means you should be allowed to essentially unalive the infant up until the age of 3. So logically speaking, if you understand the science and the current debate, then you will understand that if you support abortion, logically speaking, that means you must support infanticide up until the age of 3. Because the debate is no longer humanity, it is personhood. That is the debate. And I'm not comfortable with that. And the main reason, aside from fears, is the fact that I think intuitively we know that to do that to a baby, unless you're sort of involved in, a situation of starvation or whatever, is wrong, especially in a time of such abundance in terms of resources. And so, premise one, the left historically rejected the idea that powerful actors can declare some lives expendable. Premise two, abortion involves the intentional termination of human life. Premise, therefore, conclusion, a consistent left politic should seek to protect that vulnerable life. So, under this framing, the unborn are interpreted as another valuable class lacking political power, like a small heartbeat, the heartbeat bell from, I think it was Texas in the US, forming deep within the body, present, alive, yet unable to speak or defend itself. The broader sort of Dubois ethical frame. So the argument can also be grounded in Dubois' broader moral commitments, universal human dignity, solidarity with the powerless, and suspicion toward systems that classify populations as biologically inferior or disposable. And so those communities appear throughout his works, like, for example, The Souls of Black Folk. That's one of his books, where Dubois emphasizes the moral recognition of the humanity of those society marginalizes. So that is my Dubois sort of inspired, or Dubois-esque conclusion. And it could sort of be stated like this. If left politics is fundamentally about protecting vulnerable human beings from structures that deem them expendable, then the unborn, arguably the most powerless humans, should fall under that protection, like a fragile pulse within a larger body of humanity that justice must learn to guard. So that is my Dubois-based argument for being pro-life, and why those of us on the left need to oppose abortion, euthanasia, and any other such crazy nonsense that the professors would try and throw at us. There is an old saying, it's a wonderful saying, and it's to do with Peter Singer. When you think about it, Peter Singer, in his argument, which is a very logical, logically structured argument. That is so stupid, only an academic could believe that. And so, you think about it, that's very true, isn't it? Oh, you can sort of use mental gymnastics and rationalize your way into anything if you want, cherry picking data and so on and so forth. And so, the next subject that I wanted to get into is slavery. And it's sort of ground this in Matua Michael Parenti. So this is my other sort of point. So one of the when it comes to the issue of slavery, many people sort of misunderstand slavery. The term slavery is a broad historical umbrella category, but when people hear the word, they think of the antebellum South, of the US, Brazil, what went on there, France, etc. they think of the transatlantic sort of slave trade in which human beings were stolen, kidnapped, if you will, from Africa, particularly Central and West Africa, and taken to places like Brazil, the United States, different parts of the Caribbean, Cuba, Mexico. A lot of people don't know about that part of the slave trade, and so on and so forth. So these were awful. These were awful sort of acts, against fellow human beings, and so but we have to understand that that's not what slavery always is. Okay, so it's a broad term. There isn't just the transatlantic slave trade. So the perspective of Matua Michael Parenti, in which he invites us to look at history, the way a sort of physician studies the human body, instead of staring only at a single wound, we examined the entire circulatory system of power. So, one of the things he sort of talks about is the narrowing definition of slavery to one historical form is like diagnosing illness by looking only at the skin while ignoring the organs beneath. So why does he get into this? So if we look at the transatlantic slave trade with chattel slavery, which was absolutely horrific, an open fracture in terms of the bones of human history, visible, brutal, undeniable. But if we look deeper into the social anatomy, we see many forms of constrained labor flowing through time like veins carrying the same dark blood. So these include debt bondage, serfdom under feudal landlords, indentured servitude, prison labor, coerced migrant labor, and wage labor under extreme economic compulsion. Each differs in appearance just as organs differ in shape, but they share the same structural anatomy, pressure placed on the body of the worker to extract her labor. The question becomes not what label is placed on the skin, but how tightly the muscles of power are gripping the body of society. So, the second point is the structural logic behind slavery. So, from this perspective, slavery is less a single institution and more a skeletal structure of domination supporting the entire social body. So, certain bones appear again and again in different historical eras, examples being these are sort of key features of slavery-like systems. A minority controls productive resources, the spine of economic power. The majority must work for them to survive. The muscles are forced to move that spine. The dominant class extracts the surplus created by labor, like blood drawn from the veins of the working body. And for workers having limited power to refuse without severe consequences, the body cannot simply detach its own organs and continue living. Different systems wrap different skin, if you will, around the skeleton, but the anatomy of power remains recognizable. So, when you think about it, wage labor is a modern variant of coercion. And so, in Matua Parenti's critique, capitalism changes the surface tissue of labor, domination, but leaves much of the underlying sort of physiology intact. So the argument unfolds like tracing blood through arteries. If you think about it, most people do not own productive resources. Therefore, they must sell their labor power to survive. The arrangement appears voluntary, but the alternative is deprivation, like asking a body to live without oxygen. In this sense, the worker's freedom is like a body told it is free to breathe or not breathe. The choice exists in theory, but the lungs know the truth. Parenti would say, Mato Parenti, the difference between older and modern systems lies not in the absence of control, but in how the nerves of coercion wired. That's sort of what he gets at. And when you think about it as well, there is a freedom in that. It is real, the freedom to starve. That is an actual choice. It's a coerced choice, but it's a choice nonetheless. And I think we sort of need to sort of wrestle with that and understand what that really means. I'm sort of taking a sort of cynical, Marquis de Sade approach to the matter on that particular one. So when we have chattel slavery, the system, we have the method of control, which is direct ownership of bodies. When you have feudal serfdom, the method of control is legal chains binding the limbs. And then when you have wage labor, the method of control is economic pressure tightening around the organs. So the chains have moved from the wrists to the conditions necessary for the body to survive, essentially, is what Matua Parenti would argue. So why wage slavery is seen as the dominant sort of modern evil from this Matua Michael Parenti sort of lens or pair of eyes. In this critique, modern capitalism spreads its influence across the world like a circulatory system pumping through the global body. Workers depend on wages to access food, shelter, and medicine, the nutrients the body requires. Employers appropriate the surplus created by labor, like drawing blood from the veins while leaving just enough to keep the body standing. And corporate power shapes politics, functioning as the brainstem directing the movements of the larger system. And so, because wage labor now organizes most of the planet's reproductive activity, I use that on purpose, reproductive, the pressures it creates are felt in the daily heartbeat of billions of humans. The argument, therefore, sort of that I conclude, the sort of Matua Parenti sort of argument, is that if slavery is understood as systems in which people are compelled to labor under unequal power structures, then wage labor becomes the most widespread mechanism through which the modern economic body extracts energy from its working limbs. So, again, but I want to stress that Matua Parenti did not frame wage labor as identical to chattel slavery. Rather, he said that they were related. So it's sort of a more anatomical concept of view or framing. So the purpose of sort of the argument is diagnostic. If we focus only on the most visible scars of history, we may overlook the ongoing pressures moving through the body of modern society, shaping how people live, work, and survive. So, viewed through a Matua Parenti style pair of eyes, slavery is not just one historical wound, but a family of related structures within the anatomy of power. When examined this way, wage labor, because it compels the majority to sell their body in order to keep the social body alive, it can be seen as the most pervasive form of constrained labor circulating through the modern world. I also wanted to add a final point, and that is this. Matua Parenti noticed something which is worth talking about. We have a population decline in the modern world. You are essentially constrained from breeding as a result of wage labor. And the people that were involved in chattel slavery did not want those that were enslaved to breed. I don't think it's a coincidence, because they're interested in short-term profit, and so that's an observation that I don't think anyone has sort of made, and that we owe to Matua Michael Parenti. And so that is the final sort of subject that I wanted to get into, wage slavery, the sort of argument around wage slavery and so on and so forth. And so it's been a wonderful live. I've enjoyed many of the guests that have come on. Thank you for all the likes as well. And for the gifts, I see gifts. I've gotten heart and two roses, and so thank you. And I don't know what that is, but it looks like some sort of running thing. So anyway, thank you all for joining me in my little rant this Arvo. And yes, I hope to see you all again. I'll definitely be on tomorrow. Thank you too much for your time to share. Thank you, Papa Wehe, Rongo, thank you. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you all again sometime soon. So thank you all for joining me, and ka kite.